How is it going, guys? I am very sorry for not having been around in the last week. Not just I haven't done any market outlooks because there wasn't much to say in terms of individual stocks and all the market kind of commentary. I gladly left to Nikki and ATG because they are way better at that than me. But I thought I'm going to do a bit of an outlook this weekend, look at perhaps a few individual stocks, not too much. You see the list here. I mean, it looks longer than it is, I think. But just, a little bit of an outlook or an overview of what's going on and what we perhaps could see happen these crazy days. What I wanted to say is that I'm probably likely not going to be around for the open in the foreseeable future, just because like these the last month I have been not sleeping very much because of how crazy this market was, and it's taking a toll on my health. And I have other engagements too. I've just started my own company last week, so there's a lot of stuff going on that I just need my sleep for. I will still be there for you guys in chat, especially overnight, because that's also what I'm trying to do anyway. I'm trying to see if I can, make those futures trades overnight, as I've been commenting on before, which would play into my schedule much better, and it would also be better for the group, actually, I think, because ATG and Nikki are both in the US, so I could cover the overnight, which it looks like is going to stay volatile for the foreseeable future. So I think that some commentary there would actually help the group a lot as well. So I think, this is what's going to happen for me. But let's look at the market real quick now. It's interesting how, we closed on this on Friday. First of all, I gotta say, like the commentary that Nikki provided here on this bounce here into the close was absolutely picture perfect. I wish I had the screenshots, but I literally like 8:15 around that, he said, "Okay, I'm long now," and I guess some of you were probably disappointed with how this move didn't go any further. But when you look at this, 22.98 to almost 22.46. That's like almost a 50-point bounce. Like, 2 months ago, we would have been going crazy about a bounce like that. But now, because we have literally 400-point ranges in 1 week, we are not impressed by a 50-point bounce into the close, and I guess especially because we sold off afterwards. And I think the reason for why we sold off is just again to be found in the expected move, which we just keep exceeding. Last week's expected move was down to freaking 25.60 around that, and we went all the way down to 2300. So these, I think, were just just like here, hedges, and perhaps people selling out into the close because they wanted to protect themselves for more downside. So it's going to be interesting to see what's gonna happen next week. But I don't think we are just completely done yet. Looking at how this is moving, we are now under this monthly level, which is a strong one, the 2018 sell-off lows, and after that we have quite a bit to go. Like I would, on this monthly, it looks the next real support is into 2100, 2122 kind of level. And when you look at some of those weekly levels, we are like right on one of those right now, but the next one is under 2200, 2150 kind of area, or 2160. So it's going to be interesting whether we're going to keep going lower. I personally think we're going to see one last flush, and ATG thinks that too. He's been very vocal about that in chat. If you guys have been following him, his commentary, and this actually says it all. It tried to bounce overnight and came all the way down into on this 4 hour. So yeah, prepare for a little bit more downside, and then afterwards I could absolutely see this have a proper bounce. We've never tested the 14 yet, so a bounce into the 14 for a reshort I think would be a really nice trade at some point. And some of the stocks, or many of the stocks that I have on the list right now, are actually stocks like that I'm looking or waiting for a rebound into the 14 to reshort them there, because I think longer term this is not, honestly, I know ATG and Nikki think we're going to have new highs into the end of the year, and the only way I would justify that is that seeing how fast this bear market was. This is due to just algos and institutions. Everyone reacts faster. So last time in 2008 it took 18 months, and perhaps this time it takes half of that, which would still be 9 months, which would bring us to the end of the year. So I am skeptical that we're going to see new highs into the end of the year, but what I do think is that this is going to be a faster recession and also recovery than what we've seen in 2008, 2009, just because things move faster these days. The world moves faster. There's faster processing power. Information flows much faster. Like all that, like information spreads faster. You see this with, this virus is a perfect case actually, like how fast the virus spreads, because there's more people, more opportunity to spread information. So honestly, I think perhaps not end of this year, but mid end of next year, I think that's when I am confident that we see new highs again. So I think this year, if you have a long-term portfolio, this is the opportunity of a lifetime to buy in. Like seriously, like you buy like Disney, you buy Coca-Cola, Caterpillar, Target, 3M, Johnson & Johnson, like those big dividend stocks. Even if they cut dividends or suspend dividends at some point, I think they are really great buys, because they are not going to go bankrupt. But they are going to be at a sale or on sale very soon. I don't think we are just there yet. Like, we look at the monthly, like we still have, I think the 2000 level is not that far away at all. So I would actually like to see a bit more of a bounce before this rebounds again, just to like really get in at the bottom. But it's definitely, if you have a war chest, if you have cash lying around somewhere, this year is the time to buy in. Okay, let's look at some commodities. Crude, I think this is like one that we've also been talking about. I think this is IR. Actually, this week I started buying crude in USO, but I am long a few call spreads in CL, long call spreads. This is not for the faint-hearted. They're expensive, but I think this is such an opportunity that it's worth it. So if you have a bit of money, that could be like an opportunity here, because I'm not a macro trader. I don't know like all the craziness and what exactly there is going on, but just from a technical point of view, I don't see how. And what I know is that this price is not sustainable. Russia and Saudi Arabia, they are playing their games, but they are all playing it at a loss, and eventually this is going to have to bounce because no one likes losing money forever. So once this has to bounce eventually, so that those oil companies can freaking run at a profit again. Everyone wants their profits back. This is just a short-term thing until they've they figure out who has the bigger what. So for us retail traders, I think this is a great opportunity to buy in long term, as long as you can. Buy USO stock, buy like next year calls, and whatever you have to do. Next thing, bonds. I guess bonds towards the end of the week they finally found like a little bit of a they works. It's this we're exhausted. This is like the parabolic that I covered into this here. I covered more down here. I'm almost completely out of my position. So they've had like this big exhaustion, and everyone was confused because the bonds are going down, the market was going down, and to me it was just this is a technical thing. They can't keep going up like this even if the market goes. And but towards the end of the week, I think we saw that they might have went back into their like old program, which is their a risk-off asset, like a safe haven asset in a sense. So when stocks tank, bonds go up, and now we'll see. Like we have this kind of resistance area here that we are knocking on to just right now. What I would see or would like to see is like perhaps a retest of that middle Celt and then go higher depending on the market. I think this it would be very possible if the market wants to sell off a bit more, knock on the upper Celt and then retest the middle Celt. That could be another scenario. So we are just playing our system again in these bonds, of course, depending on the market. So individual stocks, AMD. Let's look at this one. So that's one that I'm looking at just from this wedge kind of point of view. Rejects. I redrew the wedge today because it popped over and failed. So what I'm would look for if I was trading individual stocks right now, I would look for a retest of that wedge, and eventually like when this is exhausted, like it's right at the 200 SMA as well. So retest of the lower Celt could be a short-term bounce opportunity to long it, and then see if whenever this breaks out of the wedge, once the market rebounds, I think this could have a nice little up move back into the 46 kind of area again, and retest that breakdown level here and see what it does from there. But in general, I think we are in a bear market now. I personally have never traded through a bear market just yet, but I think it's time to short pops instead of buying dips, even though like this is still over the 200. So especially after stuff gets under the 200, it's time to short pops and not buying dips. Activision, this one's interesting. I was seeing quite a bit of relative strength in this one because gaming and with the quarantine and all that stuff, I thought this might actually be a cool play for a long. But now this is broken out of this regression channel and broken under the 200, and it's closed under the lower Celt. So what we would want to see, if this gaps down on Monday, look for a bounce back into the lower Celt, and then you could take a short there for a move down into what do we have here? Probably like that 48 area would probably be an initial target that would be realistic. 48 and what do we have here? 50, of course, like the whole number 50 would be interesting as well. That could be a nice day trade with the heightened volatility. This has an ATR of 3.6 at the moment, so that is absolutely possible. Next thing, BA. I'm just pointing this out because this monthly chart looks amazing. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. The thing is, it's also sad. This is a huge company, and there's going to be layoffs. People are going to lose their jobs, and all just because management has been freaking reckless, has been irresponsible with how they've been leading this company. And now we see something like this. And while this is a pretty nice like that head and shoulders that people talk about, or just like a nice topping pattern, it's really sad when you think about the background. And I just want to say, like, this is a stock that I would not buy just yet, because this stock is either going to have to be bailed out, or it's going to get it's going to be made a government, like the government's going to run it or stuff like that. And I want to see or know what's happening with this company before I would buy this. I mean, it's just, I honestly have never seen a chart like this. This stock has lost literally 75% of its value from last year. So that is just insane. I mean, not that I haven't been saying it. I've all throughout this, I've been saying this stock needs to go bloody well down, but like this, I didn't expect. So, just an example of, market's not for the faint-hearted when it goes crazy. Caterpillar rejected the lower Celt here. We have not touched that the 14 here, but I think this could be a short as well. Say if we get like a bounce on Monday, could be a nice short with the market's next down move. Cisco, similar thing. This one, that's actually that 14 MA test that we talk about in the 14/30 strategy that ATG has put out the PDF and that we're going to cover in our course. Crossed over, never tested it now, rejected. So this, I mean, on the close on Friday, this could have been a good short overnight. But if you didn't take it short on Friday, if it doesn't open up like below 32 on Monday, if it opens somewhere in the 34, 35 kind of area, I think this could be a short still. And if you get a pop in the morning, even better. Or if it opens 36, wait for a retest into the 14 and then let it go. Short it from there and at least target 32 or perhaps even more. It's a bear market after all. Intel. If you guys have listened to Don Kaufman's video this weekend, he thinks tech has not been punished enough yet, which that this might be the next line of, like where they come from it for them. And I think this is like a nice example of how we see that it's testing a level, it's testing that 45 level, and it can't, get a hold. It keeps bouncing, but it keeps rejecting, and it kept rejecting this lower Celt here. Tested the 14, failed miserably, and now if we break the 45 and then the 43.63, this could be like the next one that has a down move at least into 42.60, and after that we got quite a bit of room. We got room into the 40. So yeah, there's quite a bit of room with this Intel. Just seeing what what ATG keeps saying. It tries, it fails, it tries, it fails, tries, fails, and never manages to reclaim that level. So watch for a break, and then that would be, I think, a very nice short, and hopefully much lower. Marriott, of course, like we have to look at some of the crazy stocks, like in the hospitality kind of space. This one had a nice bounce towards the end of the week. This is another one where I'm looking for the 14 MA because since the crossover, we've never even gotten close to testing it. So that first test could coincide with the 100 level, which would be very interesting to short for like the next leg down, at least into the previous lows in the 50s. Netflix. This one I find quite interesting because when you look at the monthly, it looks quite bullish, higher low. But you look at the daily, and at least short term, this is exactly the same thing again. Crossover, first test of the 14 failed, so this could be an interesting short here, again into the 290 or perhaps even lower. We have this support level, kind of inflection level at 306, 313. So perhaps that would be like an initial profit taking target depending on where this opens on Monday. If we gap open hard and we go gap into the 300, then perhaps short a spike into the 310, which would also coincide with the lower celt. If we don't gap too hard, I would probably take an initial short right away, and then if we get a spike, take like the proper short into the 14, into the 342 kind of level that we have here. But yeah, I think this would be very interesting for a short as well in the near term. Nvidia, kind of a similar thing. This has, even though this has reclaimed the 200 here, it failed the lower celt again. So if we open up under the lower celt, open up under the 200, look for a spike into the lower celt for another short, because tech, according to Don Kaufman, is the next one to get hit. So I mean, and I think, you know, this is actually a very plausible theory, and I think this 172 could actually be a quite interesting level to target for this. Then we're getting to the close. Last one, Twilio. Twilio did exactly the same thing that I said in other spots. Crossed the 14 under the 30, touched it here, failed, even though this closed over the lower celt. If on Monday we open under the lower celt, this is definitely like a very interesting short for a spike into like the 84, 85. Even if it spikes over, I think this would be an interesting short. Defined risk, you know, like define your risk, so that if it bounces, you don't have to panic and stop out or something like that. But yeah, I think that's quite an interesting one for the end of this session. And again, target would be, you know, like that 70 kind of area for this. And with that, guys, I haven't talked to Nikki just yet, but I think we are gonna do the podcast thing about 0% interest rates tomorrow. This could be like really interesting. The reason why we're going to talk about this is because I asked him about it, and he has, I think, quite a lot to say about this. He's the fundamentals guy, and he knows a lot about this stuff. So it's going to be a really interesting thing. I hope we get to do this tomorrow, depending on his schedule as well. I know you guys have it crazy in the US, so everything is a little bit up in the air. But stay tuned for news for that. Until then, if you like the video, please like the video. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so we can hack that YouTube algorithm and get more viewers, because the good stuff is coming. I guarantee you guys. I've done lots of graphics works today, and the first module is just around the corner. Recording will hopefully start in 2 or 3 weeks, and then we're gonna start releasing. So good stuff is on the horizon. Even though the world is going crazy right now, we are gonna stay strong, and we are gonna come out of this much better than we went into it. So with that, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, don't go crazy in isolation, and I'll talk to you on Monday.